Hi everyone, it's Sorkin. Today we are going to design least frequently used or LFU cache. So what's the LFU cache? Let's say that the LFU cache is a cache with a certain capacity. Let's say that our capacity is equals to 5 and we are adding 5 elements. We already have added 5 elements, and let's say that we are trying to add one more element. So in that case, we are going to remove from the cache before adding our element, because we cannot add because our capacity is 5. Before adding a new element, we are going to remove the cache that is least frequently used. So implementation wise, we need to implement our LFU class that will take our capacity. Also, we need to implement two methods, two functions, get and the put function. Get function takes the key and return us the value. If the value does not exist, then if we don't have that in the cache, then we are returning -1. And for the put, we are just adding put key and value. And also, as in the LRU cache that we have implemented earlier, get and put function, since it's a cache, they should run with the constant time complexity. Okay, first let's define the data structure that we are going to use. The data structure that we're going to use in this case is a hash table or hash map, because it gives us the constant time complexity. So key and value. Let's say we are adding to our LFU cache, we are adding with the key is equals to 1, value is 11, 2 and 22, 3 and 33, and 4 and 44, right? And our capacity of our cache is equals to 4. Let's say we want to put one more, right? One more, which is 5 and 55. We want to put to our LFU cache. But we cannot put that in LFU cache because the capacity is 4, and we need to remove the one that is with the minimum frequency, the key with the minimum frequency. So how we are going to do that? First thing is, instead of storing here value, we are going to store here node, right? Node. So we are going to store here its node. So let's define our node here. Our node, it has two fields. First field is the value, right? And another field is the frequency of that key, frequency of that key that we have used so far. So for example, in this case, all of them we just use the put function once. So, and by requirement, if we use put function and the get function, our frequency should increase. So we just added these elements. All of them has the frequency of 1. So which one we are going to remove here? To track it, we are going to create one more data structure here. One more data structure where we are going to track our frequency, right? Key and the value. And the value is going to be here a list, right? It's going to be here a list. So for the frequency of 1, right? For the frequency of 1, we have 4 elements, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if we want to remove that, right, minimum frequency, so, well, all of them have the minimum frequency of 1, but which one specifically we are going to remove? We are going to remove this one, right, first one, because we added it first, like first in and first out. So we are removing this one. After removing this one, so what we do, so if we want to remove the element with the minimum frequency, we find the minimum frequency which we are going to track, right? We find the key that has we find the key with the minimum frequency, and we find all the elements that we have, and we are removing the first one. After removing the first one, this is our key, right? That we need to remove from our LFU cache also. After removing this one, we can perform this put operation. Okay, this is the first case. And let's take a look to another case. Let's say that we have also key and value here, key and value that is storing our frequency, right? Also, we have key value here that is storing our LFU cache. And let's say that we have 6 with the value of 66. That is, let's say, frequency of 4. We have accessed this cache 4 times. We have 7 with 77 value and accessed 5 times, and we have 8 with the value of 88, which has been accessed 6 times, right? So what we are going to have in our frequency cache, we have 4, right? With the key value is being 6. We have 5, right? 5, frequency 5, frequency 4, frequency 5, and the frequency 6. Frequency 5 with the value of, with the key value of 7, and we have 6, right? We have 6, frequency of 6 with the value of 8, right? With the value of 8. Also, we are gonna, and let's say that our capacity is equals to 3. Our capacity is equals to 3. And also, we are gonna track minimum frequency, right? Minimum frequency. Minimum frequency. Let's say minimum frequency in this case, we have, in this case, it's 4, right? And we want to add one more element. Let's say that not one more element. Let's say that we want to update, we want to perform put operation once more. So it was 66, right? So we are calling the put function one more time, and the 6 and the 67, right? 6 and the 67. So every time when we are calling put function, we need to increase our frequency. So what we are going to do here? So we are going to, first, we are going to update our value right here. We are going to update our value. It's now not 66, but the 67. We are going to update our frequency. Now it's not 4, but the 5 times. So they are the same, right? And also we need to remove from our frequency map, right? Frequency map. We are removing this one because that's the 6 has not frequency of 4, but now it has frequency of 5. We are moving that here, right? We are removing this one. And also we are increasing our frequency. Now our minimum frequency is not 4, right? Our minimum frequency is 5, okay? Our minimum frequency is 5. Okay, let's say that we want to put one more. We are calling put function one more time. And in this case, we are putting here, we are calling the put function one more time, and we are calling with the 9 and the 99, right? So we want to add that to our cache. So we cannot add it to our cache because our capacity is equals to 3. We need to remove the one with the lowest frequency, right? So which one we are going to remove in this case? We are going to take our minimum frequency in this case. Our minimum frequency is equals to 5, right? We are going to find in our frequency map, okay, which one we should remove. We have 2, but we are going to remove this one because first in and first out. We are removing this one. Also, by this key, right? We are removing this key here we are removing in our LFU cache. We are removing this key with the values, and now we can add 9 and 99 to our cache, to our LFU cache. Okay, first thing that we are going to do, we are going to create a map for our cache. It's a map of integer and a node that we are going to create in a second. Let's just call it LFU cache, right? And we just can copy paste this one. And the next one is going to be our frequency map. Let's just call it a frequency map. And instead of array here, we are going to use, instead of list here, we are going to use a set, more specifically linked hash set, in order to preserve the order of the elements that we are adding. So integer, and let's call it a frequency map, okay? Frequency map. So now another 2 variables that we need to initialize here is, the first one is, so our integer capacity, right? And another one also, we need to also keep track of our minimum frequency, right? So we need to keep track of our minimum frequency. So our minimum frequency. So now let's initialize them. When we are initializing, when we are calling our constructor, we can call here our capacity, which is equals to our capacity, right? And also our minimum frequency, we are going to set that to our minimum frequency. We are going to set that to 0. And also we are going to create our LFU cache. Our LFU cache, it's going to be a new hash map. And also we are going to initialize our frequency map, right? Our frequency map here is also a new hash map. Okay, so and also another thing that what we need to do, we need to add to our frequency map. We need to put here our values, right? So the value for the first frequency, is we are just going to add a new linked hash set that we are going to use later. Okay, so, and it's empty for now. So that's it. We initialized our LFU cache. We initialized through the constructor. And now we can start to implement our two methods. So before doing that, let's first implement our node. What is our node here? Our node it has two variables, two fields. The first one is the value, and another one is that the int frequency, right? Int frequency. So, and also let's create a constructor for it, and the constructor is taking the int as a value, and also it takes the int as a frequency. So we are going to this value is equals to our value, and also this frequency equals to our frequency. Okay, so we initialized our node. Now let's implement our put method first. So for our put method, what we are going to do first, we are going to check that if our LFU cache, right? If our LFU cache, let's get the key, right? If that key already exists, what's that mean? If that is not equals to null, so which means that we already have that in our, we already have the key in our map, right? So what we need to do, we need to update the value. So we need to update the value. Let's do that. So let's do node, right? We are getting, so we can copy paste that here. We are getting our LFU cache. And so what we are going to do, we are going to node value. We are going to set our value, whatever our new value is. Okay, whatever our new value is. And we are going to add to our LFU cache. We are going to put our key and our updated node. Okay, so that's it. When we have when we already have the key in our LFU cache. Else, if we don't have it, what we need to do here, the first thing that what we are going to do, we need to check that if our LFU cache size, right, if that equals to our capacity, then in that case, what we are going to do, we need to remove the minimum frequently used cache, right? So for that, we are going to take that from our frequency map. We are going to take get our minimum frequency, and we are taking our minimum frequency. And what it's going to give us, it's going to give us the linked hash set of the keys with the minimum frequency, right? But we need to take only the first one, that we are going to remove the first one, right? First in, first out. So we are going to call the iterator. And we are going to take the next, which will give us the first element. Okay, so it's going to be int remove, let's call it remove. Okay, so what we have now, we have a key we have a key of the key in the cache that we need to remove. So let's remove that from our LFU cache first. So LFU cache remove and remove, right? And also what we need to do, we need to remove that from our frequency map, right? Frequency map, we need to again get the one with the minimum frequency, and we need to remove from our hash set our key, right? We are removing our key. Now after removing that, we can add the new value, right? We can add the new value. So let's create a node for it. So node, let's call it a new node, right? And the new node, let's call our constructor for the node and pass our key, pass our value. And since we are just adding that to our hash map, right? We are adding that to our LFU cache. The frequency of it gonna be 1. So we are going to add to our LFU cache. We are going to put our key, right? We are going to put our key, and we are going to put our new node. Also, we need to add that to our frequency map, right? To our frequency map, what is key is going to be? The key is in this case. So frequency map, we are going to put key for 1. We already initialized in constructor, right? For 1. So we are using that here. We are going to add 1. And for the value, we need to add the whatever we need to add. So we need to get here minimum frequency 1, right? Minimum frequency, so for 1, and what it's gonna give us a set, right? It's gonna give us a set of integers, and let's just call it frequency keys, right? Frequency keys. So to that frequency keys, we are going to add our new key, right? Our new key. So that the frequency keys, we are adding our key, and we are adding that set to our frequency map. So frequency keys, we are adding that to our frequency map. Okay, that's it. That is for the implementation of the put function. So now let's go. Yeah, here every time when we call our put method, by requirement, we also need to increase the frequency of the accessed element, right? So for example, let's say that our key is equals to 2, we need to increase the frequency of it. So we are not going to increase that here. We are going to call the get method, which will do that for us. So let's pass our key here, okay? So, and here, if we are adding a new element, by default, we are setting the frequency to 1. Okay, now let's implement our get function. So for the get function, the first thing that what we are going to do, we are going to, if it equals to null, right? If it equals to null, if the LFU cache get key is equals to null, by requirement, we need to return -1. Okay, if it's not equals to null, then it means that we need to update our frequencies. So let's do that first in our map, in our LFU cache, right? So let's take our node and LFU cache, right? Let's get our key, right? Let's get our key, and let's take our int, our current node, right? Our current frequency, and it's going to be equal to our node frequency. Okay, so we are taking whatever our current frequency is, and we need to increment our current frequency. So let's increment that, our current frequency, and let's add that to our node, right? Let's add that to our LFU cache. LFU cache. So we are adding our key, right? And we are adding our updated node. So we updated our frequency in the LFU cache for our node. Now we need to do exactly the same in our frequency map, right? So for the frequency map, what is the first thing that what we are going to do? First thing that we need to remove from our linked hash set our key for that frequency. So let's do that. Let's call our frequency map, right? Let's remove, let's get our current frequency. Let's get our current frequency. Let's get our current frequency, and what it's going to give us, it's going to give us a set of frequency keys, right? And we need to remove from there our key. So let's remove our key from there. We are removing our key, right? So we are removing our key. Now we need to, because for example, let's say that our key is, frequency of our key is 2. We are removing that from 2, but now we need to move that to the next one, to 3. So let's do that. Let's create one more variable. Let's call it new frequency, and it's gonna be current frequency, and incremented. So now what we need to do, we need to get from our frequency map, let's get our new frequency, and it's gonna be what? It's gonna be our set of integers, right? Set of integer, and it's set of integer, and let's say we have our new frequency is 3, right? But maybe that frequency is already exist and we have already values for it, right? We already have values for it. So our frequency keys, right? Maybe we already have our values, right, in the frequency keys. So our initial frequency was 2, right? Initial frequency was 2. We here removing our key from that frequency. Now we are moving our key to the next frequency, which is 3. Let's say that in the frequency of 3, we already have like 2 keys, right? So let's first check if we don't have any keys there. So if our frequency keys, if it's equals to null, so which means that we need to create a frequency keys, right? We need to create a new linked hash set here. So we are creating a new linked hash set. Okay, so we are creating a new linked hash set. If it's already exists, then we are just adding to our frequency keys. So let's add that to our frequency keys. We are adding our new frequency, and we are adding, what else we are adding here? So we are adding new frequency, and we are adding our frequency keys, right? Our frequency keys. That's it. And one more thing that we need to return here our node. Return our node value, right? Node value. So one more thing actually we forgot to do here. The thing is, let's say that in this case we removed from our frequency map, right? we removed our key. For example, let's say that the initial frequency was 2, and we removed that our key from for the value of 2, right? We need to check that if that was the last element and our minimum frequency is equals to our current frequency, then it means that our now minimum frequency becomes our new frequency, right? So let me do that here. So what we are going to do here, we are going to check that if our current frequency, if that is equals to our minimum frequency, right? And if our frequency, we can just copy paste that here. If our keys are already empty, so which means that there is no minimum frequency. So which means that that's no longer our minimum frequency. We need to increase our minimum frequency. That's what we are exactly going to do here. So we are going to actually, we can move that here. So our now minimum frequency becomes our new frequency. Okay, that's it. It's pretty long implementation. Let me run it. Okay, yeah, it should be here. So we are adding our key to the frequency key. It should be frequency map. So we are adding our frequency and the frequency keys, right? And to our frequency keys, we are adding our key. Okay, let's run it one more time. So yeah, it should be put here. So frequency keys, frequency map for integer. Okay, one thing we forgot to do also here. So once we are adding a new value to our maps, right? What also we need to do, we need to update our minimum frequency. Now our minimum frequency becomes 1, right? Because we added, and now this is the one with the minimum frequency. Okay, let's run it one more time. Okay, let's quickly change that to +1. Okay, great. It works as expected. Let's calculate our time and space complexity. Our time complexity is, so by requirement it should be constant, so our put and get functions both are running with the constant time complexity. Regarding to the space complexity is we are using 2 maps, and the worst case is the size of our capacity, so n being the size of the capacity. Okay, that's it. Let's run it actually over it one more time. So what we are doing here, we are creating 2 maps, right? One is the LFU cache where we are storing our key, and the value we are storing in the node we are storing our value, and also we are storing the frequency of that key, how many times we have accessed that. Also we are storing we created another map, which is the frequency map, where we are storing key as a frequency, and the value we are storing a set of integers, or where the set of integers we are creating linked hash set in order to preserve the order of it, and we are saving there all the keys, because we may have with the same frequency, let's say that the frequency of 4, we may have 4 keys, right, that have been accessed 4 times. So implementation wise, for the get method, first we are checking that if that key does not exist in our If that key does not exist in our map, then in our LFU cache, then we are returning -1. If it exists, then what we are doing, we are taking the node and our value in the LFU cache, and we are updating the frequency. And also what we are doing in our frequency map, we are taking that whatever the frequency is, let's say that our current frequency is 2, and we need to remove our key from the key set, right? We are removing our key, and then we are updating, and we are moving that to the next level. So let's say that at this point our frequency was 2, right? It was 2. Now we are moving that to the frequency of 3 here. So we are moving to the frequency of 3, and we are checking that if our minimum frequency, if our current frequency equals to our minimum frequency, and there is no more keys left in our frequency map, right? It means that we need to move our, so we need to increment our frequency, minimum frequency, and that will be equal to our new frequency, right? So after that, what we are doing, we are also updating in our frequency map, we are updating in our frequency map, we are adding our new key. So we are taking our new frequency. If that is already exist, if it does not exist, we are creating a new linked hash set. If it exists, we are adding that our key to the frequency keys, and we are updating that in our frequency map, and we are returning the value here. So as for put method or function, we are first checking that if that does exist, if that key exists in our frequency map, then we are, if it exists in our frequency map, then we are just updating the value and updating our LFU cache. So with the value, with the new value, and also we are calling a get method, because even if we are using a put function, right? So we have to increase the frequency by requirement. So we are calling a get method, which will increase our frequency. And another one is that if our size is equals to our capacity, in that case, we are taking the first element. We are taking the first element in our frequency map, right? So let's say that the frequency here is 2, frequency is here 2, and we have keys are, let's say, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we are taking 3 because first in and first out, we need to remove 3. So it's going to give us 3. We are removing that from our LFU cache, and also we are removing that from our frequency map, our key. And also then we are creating a new node. A new node, we are passing a value with the frequency 1 because we are just creating it. We are updating that in our LFU cache, and also we are taking our frequency keys from our frequency map and adding our key, also updating our frequency map. And we are setting our frequency to 1 because we have just added, and now we have a new new frequency. So we have a new frequency. So let's say that up to this point, right, before adding, our frequencies were like a 4, 5. Let's say our minimum frequency was 4. Since we are adding a new element, our minimum frequency now becomes 1. Okay, that's it. That's it for today. Hope you like my content. If you like it, please hit the like button and subscribe my channel. See you next time. Bye.